The field for this race was small. I was disappointed that there were not a lot of riders. Little did I know that this was going to be some of the most exciting racing I had ever experienced. This turned out to be a tactically exciting race, and I had a ton of fun. I have been participating in Zwift Racing Series races on Sundays, which does not appear to be popular. I will reconsider my schedule in the future. However, today I would be pleasantly surprised with what was about to unfold. The race started out as you would imagine for such a small group. Slow. The course was an 8-mile or 14-kilometer route that we would complete 2 times. This meant that we would ascend the Castle KOM twice, and there would be plenty of excitement once the gradient started to rise. The first move was launched just after a minute of climbing. Jay Harold activated his feather power-up and accelerated away from the group. At this moment, I had a flashback to the last race in this series where a rider jumped off the front and I did nothing to close the gap. Not this time. Now, I wasn't going to bring the other 2 with me. They would have to earn their own way into the front group. I dropped some big watts to create separation and quickly close the gap to Jay Harold. Now it was just me and him with a 1-second gap to the other 2 riders. I went right past Harold and started pulling. This was a big moment where we could potentially open up some daylight. T. Gieb responded by aggressively applying pressure to the pedals and quickly closing gap. V. Gway took a much more casual approach to getting back on terms. Now it was 3 riders up front with a 2-second gap. I kept pulling at the front, making sure that if Gway did catch back up, he would have to burn a lot of matches in order to do so. As we crested, we had opened up a 9-second gap to Gway. I was still feeling fresh enough to try another little attack to see how the other 2 would respond. Maybe they would be too tired to follow. Or maybe one of them would have their head down and not be paying attention. They both responded quickly, and I reduced power and let them catch back up. The 3 of us proceeded down the descent. And as Gway reduced the gap down to 2 seconds, I did something evil and pressed hard at the front to stretch the gap back out. Gway closed the gap down to 1 second before it started to open back up. I feel bad for him, but hey, this is racing. Unfortunately, as I was working to stretch the gap back out, It appeared that Harold experienced technical difficulty, stopped producing watts, and disconnected. This left just T-Geeb and me up front, with Gwei trying to chase us down. He was fun to work with. He understood the game of stay away that we were playing with Gwei. We both took turns at the front and kept Gwei just out of reach as we made our way to the Castle KOM for the second time. As we started to climb, the Unity disappeared, and Geeb tried several times to try to distance himself from me. I don't know if he knew about my sprinting ability, but it was clear that he did not want to go to the line with me. I was able to respond to his attacks, and we made it over the climb together. On the descent, we had enough of a gap to Gwei that Geeb and I were able to get some recovery. But with 2 miles left, Geeb put in one last attack, and this one was pretty massive. I thought about putting in a counterattack as he came off the gas. But at this point, Geeb had shown me his cards, and I was fairly confident that I could beat him in a sprint. As a matter of fact, as we approached the line, I was getting so excited that I was going to be able to put in a massive sprint. Look at my face. I look like an 8-year-old getting a new bike on my birthday.
He's just giving a big boy to a big sprint, a lot of rest.
Here comes the sprint. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Well, I'd say that's pretty good tactics. One of the riders took off. I followed him hard. Opened up just a little bit of daylight. That's all it took. If you've got daylight, that can and almost certainly will be exploited in an ACAT race. The guy with me, he knew what I was doing when the Canadian rider was about to catch back on. And he saw me put in effort right as he was about to catch. And he helped me out there. He saw what I was doing, just demoralizing the rider who was about to catch up. So much of racing is a head game too, it's mental. If you can mess with your competitor's psyche and dissuade them from continuing to attack and press, which, to be fair, my goodness, what a pursuit by the Canadian rider. I can't remember his name at this time, but wow, he was just so persistent. The other rider disconnected. That sucks. That really sucks. I feel for him. He was having a good race too. He was right there. I thought about going on the hill, time trialing in. Why? I don't think I'm the best time trialist out there. But looking at his attacks, and I think he was on Zwift Power 2, and I saw his numbers for sprinting, and I was better than him by a lot. So, play to my strengths. Hit him on the line. I'm trying to win the race. I'm not going for GC. I just want to win the race. And when I knew it was just me and him, daylight between the Canadian rider and us, I knew I had to go for the sprint. I wasn't even trying to push the pace. I was just sitting on his wheel. I don't care if we were going slow or not. Didn't bother me. As a matter of fact, that benefited me even more because I would have more energy for my sprint. He could have all the energy for his sprint that he wants. That doesn't bother me because my sprint is better than him. So, tactics. Tactics, tactics, tactics. And then that sprint at the end. Woo, baby. That was fun.
In the end, this race didn't have many riders competing, but it was still a ton of fun. On top of that, I managed to pick up my first A category win. So next time you see a race that has a limited number of competitors, I encourage you to jump in and make the most of it. You may just have a lot of fun. Thanks for watching. A huge thanks goes out to my subscribers. I love you guys, and I truly appreciate everybody leaving comments. And as always, ride on.